Hey friends, it's Loree with the blog Homestead.com, and I'm back here today welcoming you to my outdoor canning kitchen. Today we are going to make my very favorite canned tomato salsa. I have made so many salsa recipes over the years and they were okay, you know. I mean, I thought I kind of liked them, but when I tried this one, it was like, I am never making another salsa recipe ever again. So super easy. We're going to use a roaster. Okay, so this is going to be a super quick, easy recipe, not a lot of cleanup, and we're going to use some tomato paste to thicken our salsa, so it's not going to have to cook down for a long time, and it's going to be very similar to like a paste picante sauce like you might be used to getting from the grocery store. Okay, so chunky and like so good. And I make it without a lot of jalapenos in it because we don't like it super spicy for the kids, but you can always add more jalapenos, right, and make it as spicy as you want. So if you go to the blog Homestead.com, the recipe for this canned tomato salsa will be there, and I'm going to walk you through right now how to do it. Okay, so here is my electric roaster liner. Now you can do this in a pot if you want, but I like to do things in a roaster because I always make big batches, and sometimes I get really busy and I can't completely finish it right away, and I can always turn the roaster on low and it's not going to burn. Okay, so I do almost all of my tomato canning in a roaster. It's a hack that has saved me so many times. I have canned thousands of quarts of food, even when I had little babies, and you know, at nighttime they need me, or it's time for chores or whatever, and I've been able to just turn this way down and leave it on low, and sometimes leave it on low just to simmer overnight, like if it's spaghetti sauce or something. Okay, so this makes it so you're not going to burn stuff. Okay, this is like so important. So I would not can any other way if I could help it. So anyway, it's just my roaster liner or my roaster, okay, my insert for my electric roaster, and then I use these plastic roaster liners. It makes the cleanup really easy, and I'll be honest, some of my roasters have been used so many times that the enamel, the black enamel on the inside, is actually starting to get eaten off from all the tomatoes that have been cooked in them over the years. And so obviously those, you know, you definitely want to have this insert in. So what you want to do then is you want to put like a couple cups of water in the bottom, and you put, that's just to keep this part from sticking to the roaster insert. Okay, and then what we're going to do for the salsa is we're just going to chop our tomatoes. So these are raw tomatoes. These are just some leftover. I've got some Romas and some seconds, some different things that didn't sell at our farmer's market, and they've been sitting here for a few days and they really need worked up. So I'm just going to make some salsa up, and I'm going to just be chopping these. Okay, I've got a cutting board here. Sometimes it's easier just to cut them in your hands, just whatever. And I like to rough chop it. Okay, it's going to cook down some. You know, your pieces are going to disintegrate to some degree. And I like a really chunky salsa. So if you don't like a chunky salsa, you can cut them really fine. It's totally up to you. Okay, but I like a super chunky, like a paste picante sauce type salsa. And honestly, salsa is probably the most work of anything that I make all year long with tomatoes, just because it all has to be chopped. So I'm going to be sharing with you, you know, how I make all the other things in our pantry with tomatoes. There's actually 9 things in our pantry that we make out of tomatoes, like ketchup and V8 and goulash and spaghetti sauce and all kinds of different things. Most of the things, what I do is I just core the tomatoes, put them in the roaster, and cook them down, and then blend it up, seeds, peelings, and all, with an immersion blender. And that works extremely well. So anyway, spoiler alert, I'll be showing you how to do that with most everything else. Makes it really fast and you get a lot out of your tomato product. But for this, we're going to be chopping onions and peppers and tomatoes and lots of things, and we're going to make a super yummy salsa. All right, so here's my full roaster. So this is an 18-quart roaster, full roaster of tomatoes, and I will put the exact measurements for this on the blog. I'm putting about 7 batches of this recipe in here, and just depending on your roaster will depend on how many you want to put in here. So we have a whole bunch of green peppers. These are organic because they're from our garden, and garlic, which is from our garden. Okay, and some jalapenos, and as I mentioned, I don't put in as many as it calls for, so I'm going to tell you how many I put in, and then we'll go from there. Okay, and then we also have some onions from the garden also. Okay, and so I'm going to use my Ninja food processor here to just chop all this up because it's so much easier. You can chop it by hand. You can put it in a hand chopper, a food processor, you know, a blender, whatever you want, right? This is what I'm going to do. I've done this for a long time, and so we're just going to chop all this up, add it into this, and kind of let it cook down, and add some vinegar and spices, and then we will have our salsa. I like to quarter the onions. They seem to fit in here a little bit better. And I like to throw in some peppers along with it because the onions kind of help the peppers to blend up well. These are already chopped enough. And I'll just put in some garlic. All right, and sometimes there's like one chunk of pepper that doesn't fully chop, but I just pull them out and stick them in the next round. The peppers are a little harder to chop. It's just kind of the nature of it. Okay, and I just throw it in there. And add some more veggies. So we're gonna get all this chopped up. And then we'll add the rest of the stuff. You could also make this in a crock pot if you were going to do a small batch, and if mine starts to run over, I might have to put some of it in a crock pot. We'll just see how it goes. That's one nice thing about canning outside, is any mess you make is outside. So, and I'm forever boiling everything over. That's just what I'm known for. So it's all right. It always tastes so good. I just never think it's done until the pot is completely full. That's just kind of how I roll. All right, I did end up splitting this in between two roasters because it was gonna be too big of a mess. So, all right, so now I'm gonna add the spices, and again, we'll have the exact measurements per batch. I'm figuring about 4 batches now per roaster or so. So I'm gonna put a teaspoon of pepper per batch, and a tablespoon of salt. And again, I like to taste this before I put it in the jar, and so then if you feel like it needs more of something, you can add it. But I have done just what the recipe calls for several years since I found this recipe, and I've absolutely loved it. So, okay, I got to do 1.25 cups of vinegar per batch. Okay, that's close enough. And 1.25 cups of brown sugar. I know this measuring cup is wet, but it's going to be just fine. We're just going to dump this all right in here. And I'm just going to kind of get close. Okay, a little bit more. Okay, brown sugar. That'll cut the acidity of the tomatoes a little bit. And with the salt, it's like so good. Okay, so there's our brown sugar. Okay, and then 2 teaspoons of cumin per batch. So I'm gonna do 8 teaspoons. Per roaster, and this is gonna give it a really great Mexican flavor. So good. Okay, and I buy my spices in bulk, like the cumin, from Azure Standard, and I'll try to put a link to that down below. Okay, and then we're gonna add tomato paste. The tomato paste is what is going to make this thicken quickly. Okay, it's gonna stretch your tomatoes. Now, the tomato paste, the vinegar, and the sugar, I guess, and the salt are the only things that I have not produced for this salsa. You know, you could cook this down for several hours and not use the tomato paste if you would like. But I find the tomato paste stretches my good tomatoes, and so I choose to use it. The other thing you can do is you can, if you have an overabundance of tomatoes, you can dehydrate them. You could use the powdered tomatoes as a thickener, okay, like the tomato paste, all right? And that would keep everything all organic. But for today, I am going to just put in, so it's like 12 ounces of tomato paste per batch. This is like 7 pounds, so it's like, it's not gonna be quite half. Let me get rid of this lid here. It's gonna be not quite half in each roaster, okay? And again, I'm gonna see if I like the consistency at the end. And I'll just put the extra of this in my refrigerator and I'll use it in another batch of something else. I buy my tomato paste from my local store. They order the cases for me around canning season, and I find it's cheapest in these big cans. So you can do some research, you know, buy some 12-ounce cans or whatever, but I find these big, huge cans end up being the least expensive. So yeah, I'm just gonna stir this all up, and I'm gonna put them in their roaster, the actual roaster insert in the roaster, turn it on, bring it to a simmer, and I only want to simmer it for about 20 minutes, okay? So you just want to get it so that the tomatoes are cooked, because the rest of it, the tomato paste and everything's gonna thicken it. It's gonna be so yummy. This is so good in the middle of winter with some chips. Oh man. So we're gonna cook this down, and then we'll put it in jars, and we will water bath it in our water bath canner, and we'll have the salsa for the year all done. So I'll bring you along and show you how we finish it off. All right, this is what it looks like as it cooks up. So good. And you want to wait until the tomato chunks, you know, until everything's cooked, right? So just kind of keep stirring it to the outside, because that's where it's cooking, is out where the heat is. And if I'm trying to cook something down, I always cook it without the lid off, with the lid off, right? But this I'm cooking with the lid on because I want it to get hot faster, because I don't want to be up till midnight. So anyway, that's what it looks like. You can see, and I just tasted it and it's so good. It's just the peppers and the garlic and the onions aren't quite all the way cooked, and neither, you know, some of those tomato pieces aren't either. So let it cook a little more, but you can see that it has the consistency of like a picante sauce. So good. All right, let's check the salsa. Looks like it's done. Looks so good, and it is good because I've made it so many years in a row now. So I am going to find my scoop here, and we're gonna ladle it in here. So this is a canning funnel. Okay, I'll put a link to one of these down below, and I'm gonna put mine in quart jars. You can do pints if you want, but I like to do quart jars, and because this has vinegar and stuff in it, it keeps in the fridge quite a while after you've opened it. So it's not like you have to eat it all, you know, right away. So I'm just gonna use this to put it in here, and of course it's nice and hot. And then I've got the water going in my canners. I've got 2 canners here because I want to get this done. I need 18 quarts for my shelf in my pantry to fill up my shelf. So let's see, because I have quite a bit left from last year. So we will see. That's too full. How many quarts we get. And the great thing is we're going to be able to just take this roaster liner, throw it away, rinse out the roasters, and we're done. There's no pots to scrub. This is gonna be super, super easy. The hardest part about this is chopping all the stuff, but you know, if you use a food processor for the onions and the garlic and peppers, then it's not too bad. And we're gonna process these in the canner for 15 minutes. So we're just gonna put the lids on. When the water in the canner is at a boil, we're gonna put the jars in. And as soon as it starts boiling, we're gonna start our timer for 15 minutes. When we're done, we'll take them out. They will seal, and we will have shelf-stable salsa for the rest of the year. And it's all natural and organic. Didn't cost us very much to make it. It's gonna be so good, not to mention nutritious for our bodies. So. Okay, I'm gonna finish jarring this up, and then I'll come back at the end and let you know how many quarts I got. And we'll pop them in the canner. Okay, so, and you know, at the end, right, here's your roaster liner. I just pull it out and it's got just a little bit of salsa left in it. We'll see if I can pour it in here without making a mess or burning myself. Ah! Okay, there goes a little bit in there, and then I'm gonna stick a little bit in this jar. It won't be a full jar, so I'm just gonna put it in my refrigerator. Ah. There we go. No waste, and this can just go straight into the trash can. All right, using my favorite 4 jars canning lids. Just gonna make sure the rims of the jars are clean, and they should be because I used my funnel. Just gonna put these on really quick and put them in the canner, as I mentioned, for 15 minutes. Again, this is not a pressure canner. This is just a boiling water bath canner. All right, and we got 22 quarts, 22 and a half actually. So it will more than fill my shelf. We'll have to eat some, but that's okay. Okay, here's our salsa. And so I'm gonna open it and try it. I already know it's gonna be amazing, but anyway. Pour it, see how thick it is, thick and chunky. And I've got my chips. All right, let's see how it is. See, I like the big chunks of tomatoes and peppers in mine, right? That's why I left all the stuff really big and chunky. That's how I like it. If you like it finer, you can chop it finer. It's all good. Really good. I can taste the cumin, just the right amount of spice. The cumin almost gives it a smoky flavor. So it's really good. Anyway. So good. So, that's how you make the easiest home canned and the best home canned salsa you will ever eat in your life. And if you check out the blog wagonwheelhomestead.com, you can find the recipe. And if you are enjoying this kind of content, learning how to grow your own food, preserve it, cook it, put a dent in your grocery bill and all the things, then definitely hit that like and subscribe button. And thank you for joining us today, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.